Hello everybody, this is T-Freak from T-Freak Adventures. Today's adventure is I am replacing the upper control arms and upper ball bearings and the idler arms on my 2002 Astro. Now the only reason that I'm making this video is because I went to YouTube to try to find some information, see some other guys maybe who had done this job. And the closest thing that I could find was an upper control arm replacement on an S10, which is very similar. The control arms are basically the same. But he was also doing wheel bearings and lower control arm or lower ball bearings and all that kind of stuff too. Lower bushings, I'm sorry. So anyway, I'm not doing all that. Since I couldn't find a video on YouTube of an Astro van, and I know there's still a lot of Astro vans out there because these Astro vans are almost becoming like collector's items. A lot of people are falling in love with these vans and buying up older ones and kind of converting them for different things. I wish Chevrolet would just bring back the Astro van in a newer version. Anyway, I decided to go ahead and make this video so you can see the specific job for doing it on an Astro van, because that's not out there on YouTube yet. So let me turn the camera around here. I'm going to show you what I've done so far. Okay, so this is the driver's side. I haven't taken that wheel off yet, but I've already jacked it up and put jack stands under it. You're probably not supposed to jack this thing up by this cross member, but I've done it multiple times and I've never had a problem with doing it this way. So I do like to put like a block of wood in between my jack and the cross member to keep it from bending anything there. It kind of distributes the weight a little bit better. And then I put jack stands under here, so it's all jacked up, it's ready to go. Like I said, the driver's side, I have not taken the wheel off, but I've already started on the passenger side. Now, since all I'm doing is replacing this upper control arm. Let me see if I can get a little light on it. This is your ABS speed sensor wire, and it was riveted to the side here. So I just ground the heads off and then took a screwdriver and pried this off, and I'll bend it back and stick it back in on the new piece on the new control arm when that time comes. I've gone ahead and remove this cotter pin. Normally in videos that you see where this is done, they go ahead and pull the brake calipers off, possibly even pull the rotor off and all of that. I'm not going to do that this time. From this steering knuckle down, I'm not messing with anything on this. I just need this upper control arm off. So I'm going to leave all of that attached, and I'm just going to be really careful with that. And so really what I need to do is I just need to I'm going to get a pickle fork in here. Like I said, I've already taken this nut loose right here on this knuckle. I'm going to get a pickle fork in here and pop this loose, and then don't be tricked into thinking that these are what you take off. This is just for adjustment purposes. Where you actually need to get to is on the back side of this upper control arm. There are two bolts. Now you can't see them from here, but let me crawl under and I'll show you. Alright, if you look up in there, you can see that I've already got a nut backed off of this bolt up in here. That's the back side of that control arm. Well, these bolts that are attached to the frame of the vehicle go through that piece, and so what you're going to have to do, you have to get these bolts off the back. There are a couple of shims in between that little that piece of metal, that bar that runs through there, and the frame of the vehicle. You got to make sure that when you pull those shims out, you remember exactly how they were and how they go back in there, because that is how the camber of the front end is adjusted, and you want to get that back in exactly the way you took it out, or your vehicle is not going to be aligned correctly. So you can see here, that's one of the things I couldn't tell on the S10 video, was how those shims went in. And if you look really closely, you can see that the bottom of the shim has a notch cut out of it. So they're inserted from the top around that bolt that's sticking through there. So once you get this thing loose and you're able to move that upper control arm, you'll be able to pull those shims out. And like I said, make sure that you put those back in exactly the way that you took them out. So I'm gonna, I went ahead and removed the idler arm on this side, because like I said, I'm gonna be replacing that anyway. And this is a very small workspace. I basically had to stick my wrench in from the wheel side, and then come around here and reach up in this hole to loosen these nuts. So this is what I've got so far, and I'll let you continue to watch. Okay, so I got the last one completely loose. I do want to point out that before I started all of this, I sprayed all of these threads, everything that I was working on, all of these threads with Starits, and let it soak for a little while to, you know, because this whole front end, I mean, you can look under here, you can see how rusty this is, and that made the whole job a little bit easier to get things loose. Okay, so now I've got the upper ball joint broken loose. So this is loose now. You can see that steering knuckle just kind of falls loose, and now I can get to this, and you can see it's moving because I've already removed, loosened those bolts. And so now I can reach back here and I can pull these shims out. See that shim? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lay them right here in the exact orientation that they were placed in back here. So I got these in the front now I need to pull out. This one in the back goes to the back side. This one in the front. These two in the front go to the front side. And they're laying the exact orientation that I need to drop them down in there. In the end, all the shims are out. Now look, see how this right here now, I can Finished backing these bolts, these nuts off these bolts. Yep, so there's the front one. I really love how there's no wasted space in these Astros. And that is, I said that with as much sarcasm as I can. They give you no room to work on anything. And this one still needs to be backed out a little bit more. So I'm going to see if I could just get this wrench on right here and get it back off a little bit more. There we go. I'll be able to get it with my hand now. Alright, there's that one. I'll even put those in the right order. So now this, just short of coming off of there. And like I told you, I went ahead and loosened these up on either side so that this upper control arm would more easily pivot, because you're going to need to pivot it some to get it out. Alright, so you see that's loose now. Alright. Just be careful with, I believe those are your transmission coolant lines back there, and these are some air conditioning lines, I believe. So just, if you have rear air, for sure be careful as you do that. You can see, look here, the rubber's gone right here. And so I was getting a clanging noise as I was driving down the road. I'd hit bumps and it would clang a little bit, clatter. And so this is probably where some of that was coming from, was there was some movement here in this upper control arm, metal hitting metal. I'm gonna get my new one out and prep it and go through the reverse process of putting it all back together, and I'll bring you back in a little while. Okay, so I have put the new control arm in place. I've already put the shims in on the front. I reiterate again, make sure that these shims go back exactly the way you took them out, because that matters in the alignment of the vehicle. So I'm going to put these are the shims for the back bolts. And like I said, there's not a lot of room to work. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this forward and hold it tight against those shims once I get them in place. Same thing in the front. Alright, now it's just a matter of putting these nuts on here. So I got my Haynes repair manual. I highly encourage you to get one of these if you don't have one. But it says that the upper control arm to frame nuts should be 81 foot-pounds. I'm nowhere near torquing these down at this point. Right now I'm still trying to get them tightened up. important point that I need to let you know about. See this rubber bumper here? That was not in the new upper control arm. So I had to take it out of the old one. It wasn't that hard to do. I just kind of pried these little lips or pushed them through with a screwdriver to get this one out. And then I stuck it in here and grabbed this end with a pair of pliers to pull it through. So that wasn't all that hard to do. So now it's just a matter of me torquing this down, and this upper control arm will be installed here. Now notice that these nuts here are still loose. You do not tighten those until you lower the vehicle to the ground, so that when you tighten these will be tightened at the normal ride height of the vehicle. If you tighten them right now, then when this vehicle comes down and this weight pushes up, it's going to twist this rubber that's in here, and it could tear it, and that would lead to premature wear of the upper control arm bushings. So we're going to wait to tighten those and torque those down until the vehicle is back on its tires and sitting on the ground. So next thing I will do, I'm going to finish torquing. I'm going to get these torqued, these bolts on the back torqued to 81 foot-pounds. I'm going to go ahead and put my, notice that I haven't put my grease zerk in here yet, so I'm going to do that. Then I'll bring you back in a little while for when I attach this upper control arm to the steering knuckle here. Alright, so see you in a little bit. Okay, so it is torqued down, and I have to say again, I think I've said this before, the space that you have to work with back there is insanely small. So what I had to do was I had to torque this one, the front one, from the front, and then the back one I had to actually get back here, and you can see where the exhaust manifold is. There's just enough room this side of the exhaust manifold, between the exhaust manifold and the frame of the vehicle. There's a tiny little hole right there that you can put your torque wrench, and I was able to torque the back from the back bolt from back there. So both of those are torqued down, and you can see right here I've gone ahead and positioned my speed sensor cabling here. There are holes in the side of this new upper control arm, and I'll have to rivet, put new rivets in here and rivet this back in place in these two locations. That shouldn't be too difficult. So now I'm ready to guide this into my steering knuckle here, and I put a jack stand under here to keep this control arm from falling, but you can see this is not going to go down far enough to get inside here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position a jack stand under this end of this control arm and kind of jack it back up into place so that this upper ball joint bolt will go down inside the steering knuckle. The ball joint stud is just starting to come through the bottom of the steering knuckle, and it actually pushed this up a little bit, so I can push down on this, and you can see I've got threads now that I can put my ball joint stud nut on. Gotta tighten it down here. Just want to make sure it's not cross threading. All right. good. Even those pliers, I'll tap that in just like that. Reach over here and bend it down. Alright, so that is installed. So now I'll just reinstall the idler arm on this side, which is no big deal. That'll be super easy to do. And like I said, when I have not tightened either one of these nuts here on the side, when I lower it down and get it to ride height, that's when I'll tighten those to the torque specs. Everything else though, and I'll put these rivets in, everything else is pretty much good to go. I'm going to re-grease everything once I get it all together, and then it ought to be good to go. Hopefully that'll fix the problem that I had with this front end clattering. It still is making noise after this. There's only one thing it could be, and that is the lower control arms. And if I end up having to do a lower control arm job, I'll make a video of that as well, so that any of you who are trying to do this job on an Astro van will have some information at least about how somebody else did it. So hope this helped any of you who are going to be doing a front end job on a 2002 Astro or any Astro van for that matter. I believe most of them are very similar to this. Have a good day, and thanks for tuning in.